Yeah. Did you feel like you forgot everything? Because that was me.
Yeah. It's weird, like, like last week when we're like, okay, we ain't gonna record. I'm like, I already took my notes. Now what do I do? Now I got to go back and have to reread my notes to make sure. Okay, that's what I was, my mindset at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the shirt you're rocking? Does it say juiced and with Bonds?
Yeah, it's got Bonds, McGuire, Sosa, and Canseco. It's backyard hit, backyard
Oh,
greats.
yes. Yeah. Now I see it.
Yeah,
I was like, dang, man.
yeah.
Well, welcome back, everybody. YouTube stream. Let's go. The W Sports Podcast off for a week, but yeah, it may be a holiday tomorrow. But hey, we're here because we're not missing 2 weeks.
No, 2 weeks would just be too much, I think.
Yeah. So last week, always a long week. Do you know over the course of five days? I put up 2 hands. That's 10. 5 days. I did the equivalent of I walked 2.5 marathons. Essentially, every single day it was a half marathon.
Man, yeah. I mean, it's a lot that goes into what you guys do for that. For those upcoming months.
Yeah, we treated every day like a best of 7 series. What up, Colin? Welcome back, man. We missed you,
Colin.
Yeah, we treated every day like it was a game best of 7 series. So you got to win day 1. So so we had to okay. So at the end of the day, we won. Game day 2, we won day 2, right? Day 3, we won day 3. So you close it out at home, right? Because you already won on the road once in game 3. And then we kind of joked around that we didn't finish game day 4. We were like, oh, well, we got to win game 5 now. And I was like, bro, once you're at game 5, like the momentum can shift. And so it was just this whole thing. It was a fun theme, though. I joked that we won the series 3-3.
3-3.
Yeah, us too, man. If I wasn't as busy as I was walking around half a marathon, I would have been for sure lost. Didn't know what to do.
Yeah, Colin messaged me on Instagram last week, and he's like, "Are you guys not on this week?" And I was like, "No, we're taking, Jimothy, has a long week, so we're gonna take a week off." And he goes, "I don't know what to do now. I don't know what to do with my Monday."
So we can be honest and know that Colin, you apparently are one of the 18 people on YouTube who sees our video that we put up, because apparently it doesn't reach anybody anymore.
Dude, I don't know. Yeah, too much of it. Like for a couple weeks there, I was like so invested. I'm like, okay, what is going on now? I'm just like, okay, things will probably change. I think it has to do with
it's that time of year.
It's just that time of year. It's just this weird lull with sports, and yeah, there's only so much. I think baseball can get into it, but yeah, I think once football starts picking up, college football, NFL, I think things probably start swinging a little bit better for us. But after that, I was just like, okay, I'm not going to stress out about it anymore.
We can't
right now.
Can't focus on those. We'll just have fun with the sports podcast. That's what we're doing right now. We'll just have fun with the people that are here. Make it this so much fun, a ton of fun.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, just have fun with it, and whatever happens. We'll figure it out later.
We'll figure it out as we go. We'll be all right.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So calendar flipped to July, which I forgot until all of a sudden I was like, dude, it's July. June is over. So what does this mean? Football season is here. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically football season now.
I made myself hold off to renew my sleeper fantasy league that I've had for a couple of years now. The one that we review every year on this podcast. I made it my point to wait until July to renew it, and July 2nd, boom. Got to do it. So I sent it out. We cleaned up the league a little bit. There were some guys who I gave them the second chance last year. You as a commish, sometimes you just got to make that call like, hey, it's just not going to work. I think we're going to move on.
I give you a year. If you don't set, I'm sorry. Yeah,
I gave 2 years.
Yeah, I gave you a year, and you didn't set your lineup because someone got hurt, and now you're like, oh, well, I don't want to set my lineup because I want to lose. Nope, not how I play. Sorry.
We don't do tanking here.
Nope.
We don't do that. So in this league, last year it was a super flex, and then we talked about how bad the quarterback play was last year. So I'd be curious, anybody that's on the YouTube, you can feel free to comment. I want to know, how many of y'all are tired of Superflex leagues? Because it seemed like they were just trending up. Everyone was doing them. Everyone was loving them. They were so much fun. They were bringing balance to the quarterback draft strategy to where you're like, well, I'm not going to get one in the top 3. I'm just going to wait till the last 2 rounds. Like, that's not happening anymore because the quarterback play is that bad. So I'm going to go away from that. I am going to also have an emergency reserve. So let's say that first drive, Zeke gets hurt or something random like that. And you're like, he's in my lineup. This sucks. I'm going to lose. Well, just like any other team, I got an emergency guy you can throw in. So you'll have to designate beforehand. So you can't just choose the guy on the bench that had the most points. But that will be something I think I'm going to add to the league this year.
That's not bad. That's
a little wrinkle.
Yeah. So is it every week you get to pick one
every
person?
Week you can tell me. You just have to message me. Hey, if someone goes down, this is who it's going to be. So that way we know.
Yeah. See, I saw one that they were talking about where you get one the whole season.
Ooh,
and
that's not bad.
So it depends on, like, say you're towards the end of the year, or maybe you're like, I really need to win this one, extend the lead, or catch up. You can swap one person that week. It doesn't matter who it is. You don't have to designate them, but you get one for the whole year to decide, okay, this is what I'm going to use it.
I don't. Honestly, most people are only going to need it once, right? But because COVID was what brought this idea, because we had that with one league, and then last 2 years we haven't had it, and then last year we just had some wacky injuries that just tore up a whole person's week, and I'm like, you know what? This should be fun. You shouldn't be stressing out about an injury. Have fun with fantasy football. Yes, there's a small league fee because I think people are more invested a lot of times if they have money involved. But, at least if you had that one dead owner who just says, I'm not going to set my line up. Well, thanks for the $25. I'm going to keep it simple.
Yeah.
So, have you done a mock draft yet?
Nope.
I did one yesterday. I just got the itch. I was bored.
Yeah. No, I haven't done any of them. I haven't even really looked at, like the rankings and stuff. I know a lot of people have Jahmyr Gibbs like insanely high on their draft boards, which to me, I don't know. I guess we'll get into that once we get a little bit closer, but
yeah, for sure. The hardest part right now is just running backs because Zeke still doesn't have a home. Cook doesn't have a home. Mixon, you don't know what's going on. P-Ron, you don't know what's going to happen because of Mixon. There's just so much of that.
Well, P-Ron's in Denver now.
Did I miss that? When did I miss that?
I don't know. No, he signed like day one free agency.
What? Hold on.
Yeah.
Majay?
I mean, yeah, Piran. Yeah, he'll probably. There's a good chance he may start a decent bit of the season with Javonte Williams coming back from the ACL.
Yeah, I missed it. I don't know how I missed it. No idea.
Yeah.
When did this happen? I'm a bad sports podcaster. That's what I'm telling you.
It was like, I want to say like day one, day two free agency, NFL free agency.
Yep, only 4 months ago. I only missed it 4 months ago.
I'm pretty sure we even talked about it
4 months ago. Okay, what was it? February. We were in baseball talk. All right, I'm sorry. Super Bowl playoffs, whatever. I wasn't thinking about the Broncos.
We even did something about it on the podcast.
I don't remember, man. It was I walked 2.5 marathons last week. It's too bad. All right, whatever.
So P-Ron's fantasy value is probably actually pretty decent this year, especially early on, and could be, going forward. The way things I've been reading about Javonte Williams is that the knee injury was worse than they let out. That it's a lot closer to what happened with J.K. Dobbins, where it was a very nasty tear. It wasn't just like, he completely tore it. No, he tore that, a couple other ligaments, some other, smaller tendons. And so it was a pretty rough knee injury. So you never know. P-Ron could be that sneaky guy mid to late draft that could be one of your guys that help you out towards the end of the season.
Yeah, no, he did that, I think, for a lot of people last year. So, Colin, you're right. It is the Broncos. So that's probably why we missed it. Let me pull this up here real quick. I do have a game that I want to play today. Just like a quick trivia to see which one, like who you're going to take.
Okay.
As we get into it, let me pull that up. I got too many tabs open over here. It's going to be a nightmare to figure out. and see if you can guess each one. You see if you can go 4 for 4. It's more like 4 trivia questions with a who you going to take. Oh my gosh, this is insane.
So I've got an interesting, maybe slightly interesting take for baseball when we get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was doing some checking and stuff like that, and because it was something I heard on ESPN, and they were like, yeah, of course it was Stephen A. Smith, who I don't know if he really knows a whole lot about baseball, and he
Still
kind
on
of like
staff?
chimed in. Do what?
Is he still on staff?
Yeah, he's one of the few that's still there.
Jeez. Yeah, that is insane how many
Yeah.
people got fired. But what was he saying?
So, we'll get to it when we get to the baseball.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah, because it kind of has to pertain with one of the notes, about we're midway through the season,
Yeah.
about So we'll get to it. I think it's an interesting one that I think a lot of people don't see it the same way, but once you look into it, you're like, okay, this actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll jump in with this then. Have you seen some of the newly revealed uniforms for NFL for this year?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to ask, which one do you look forward to the most? Or which one's the worst? We'll start with which one are you looking forward to the most? For those who don't know, Seattle is going to rock some of those 90s colors with the blue and hopefully the green in there. Arizona has some red, black, and white options. Philadelphia is bringing back the 80s Kelly green. I think that's going to be everyone else's favorite. Tampa Bay is going to go back with the creamsicle. So when they were terrible, they had those creams. I hate them. They're very Tampa Bay, I guess, very Florida. Tennessee has an Oilers look. We haven't seen it yet, but it's going to be something like the Oilers. And then Detroit has that classic, that logo that has the, 75 years or something like that, or 100 years, whatever logo it is, with like the Mustang look with the lion. So that was pretty cool. Which of those? I mean, have you seen them all?
Yes, I've seen them all. I'm interested in seeing the Oilers one because I like the old Oilers uniforms, the powder blue, the red, the old like oil tower on it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to see those. I think those will probably be my favorite, but I do like the Seattle's going back with the gray and blue and green, old school 90s.
Yeah, the 90s, 80s Seattle look were some of the best with the green and the blues. That one by far is the one I'm most excited about. It's not even close. Detroit was the second best. I thought they did a really good job. They haven't really touched their logo since they added the dimensions to the line itself, but I like it a lot. I thought it was one of the good ways to do a really outdated logo. Like I showed it to my wife and she was like, what is that supposed to be? And I was like, it was a line back in the 30s or 50s or whatever. So it was the best they had.
Yeah, no, I thought the helmet was really cool. I thought we texted about it. I think they did a really good job. I think with just going with the all blue helmet instead of just being, gray helmet with the old logo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, or silver or whatever but they went with the blue, that kind of powderish blue, whatever you want to call it, whatever blue they call that. But yeah, I think it was a very, very good take on the old school logo.
Yeah, Colin, it sounds like it's all the bad teams. It is mostly bad teams. And I do like the Eagles are in there, and I do think the Eagles are good, but I don't think like they were in a weak NFC, and it was just a team that that had an easy schedule. So this year it'll be a much harder schedule. So will their record be as good as it was last year? I don't think so, but it's still a good team. But everybody else it's borderline, hopefully a playoff person if you're Detroit, and everybody in Seattle and the other three teams are bad. Which is your worst favorite? Least favorite?
Least favorite? I mean, I'm not big on orange, so it has to be Tampa. Orange is like my least favorite color.
Yeah.
So
really? Okay.
yeah,
that's fair enough. All the hate for burnt orange and OSU orange and
San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, I mean it just makes sense. You don't like orange.
Yeah, Chicago Bears.
Yeah, no, it just stands for reasons. You have orange, you hate. Yeah, I think it's the most boring uniform already, and they made it just as much as of a boring combination that Arizona has. The red, black, and white. It's black on black, white on white, red on red. Awesome. They're gonna put Arizona. It doesn't even look like they got the font spacing right. It looks awkward. It looks dull and boring. And they had this big reveal in downtown Phoenix for it. That was ridiculous. What a waste.
I know. And the fact that people actually liked him, are like, oh, it's actually a good take. It's just simple. I'm like, that's so boring.
Yeah.
What did you do to it besides make it worse? I thought they, when they came out with that helmet last year, with it was black with the candy apple red flakes in it, I was like, oh, that's a cool helmet. With the black uniforms, if playing outside or something like that, and that sun bounces off that, probably got a really cool concept. Kind of like the Louisville Cardinals, how they've had that kind of same black with the, I'm like, cool. And now you just basically just made it super dull and boring.
Pretty lame.
Yeah.
Pretty lame. Yeah. So Colin said he thinks that Hurts is one and done. You don't think so?
No.
I hope not. Just for the sake of the NFC, they need good quarterbacks. And we also, please, in the NFL, we need good quarterback play. But he's got to stay healthy.
I could understand if, say, Hurts had a bad year last year passing. You could go, okay, all he can do is run. But he improved so much from year 2 to year 3 as a passing quarterback that I find it hard for him to fall off that hard, I think. Even if they're playing tougher teams, yeah, they didn't play anyone really worth mentioning a whole lot last year. But he still had to make those plays and still made those plays. And there's a lot of times where he was dropping the ball in the bucket when he needed to. So I'm a big Jalen Hurts guy. I was on Jalen Hurts at the beginning of last year, thinking he was going to have a big year, and he did. So I would expect him to have that type of season again this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you feeling like you're ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Here we go. I almost hit the power button. Wow. It's been too long.
Forgot how to do it.
I did. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Welcome back, everyone, to the W Sports Podcast. We had a week off, and we are back. Jimothy, alongside, as always, is the one and only Tubby.
Oh, that was one long week.
I know. What did we even do with ourselves?
I don't know. I had so much just kind of like built up in my head. Like, okay, I want to talk about this. I don't have no outlet this week to just kind of get it out.
No. Were you on Twitter just tweeting all your thoughts, all your notes? Was that where it all landed?
They're probably lucky I wasn't. I mean,
why is that? Like, what would have been the one that you went off on? Was it the perfect game?
Yeah, I mean, there's just some very dumb takes when it comes to that. What I really did was I kind of immersed myself into Oklahoma recruiting. Okay. I watched a lot of like recruiting podcasts and stuff like that with Parker Toon and Brandon Drum. I watched all those, kind of getting immersed into it. I mean, it sounds like our friend Casey Poe probably will not be committing to Oklahoma.
That's what I was hearing too.
Next couple weeks.
Yeah.
But
okay.
hey, he's going to Alabama more than likely. So hey,
yeah, well, I mean,
can't really fault.
You can't blame him. But I'm just saying, what do you think about like maybe he's the turning point for professional, like NFL caliber lineman from Alabama? Because if you look at the track record at OU,
yeah,
I mean it's there. It's there right now. And what
we all know my rules.
It's not quite the same right now.
Yeah, we know my rules.
University.
Yeah, Alabama offense lineman, I don't take him. But yeah, hopefully Casey's the one outlier that stands out. He has an incredible NFL career.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. And we'll see. Maybe it switches. Maybe he listens to the pod and he's like, oh my, or he looks at the tape and he looks at what Oklahoma's Sooners have done.
Yeah,
what they've paid.
Parker doing the way he talked, he said, okay, it's probably not set in stone. He said, right now we do have in favor, Alabama as the favorite. But would I be surprised to say 12 days, he took those 12 days to try to figure things out and they came back and Oklahoma was able to sway him? No, because he had that relationship with them. So, yeah, I kind of just immersed myself in the OU recruiting because I'm ready for college football and, of course, recruiting. I've been saying it for a couple weeks. Oklahoma's recruiting is just about to explode, and July is about to be it. It's exactly what happened last year when everyone was skies falling, Venables can't get anyone, and get a couple guys here and there, and then July is when everyone just kind of started jumping on board. I think that's probably what's going to happen again. And in just a couple of weeks, Oklahoma went from 45th ranking in the recruiting. Now they're up around like the 15th mark. So
yeah. Well, they're going to have to keep the ball rolling. The transfer portal, I mean, you probably heard about that. Like they're trying to shrink it to half the length.
Yeah.
So from 2 to 1 month instead, essentially 30 days. I think that would help too. I mean, that puts the pressure on each athlete whether they want to trade. I think we agree that there's too many transfers right now. Too many guys are like, I'm just going to go, take my talents over here because I'm not going to start here anymore. And I get it. Like, you want to play football as long as you can, and only so many people can make it to the NFL. So most of them, like the amount of people we saw this year that were on ESPN that were just reaching for storylines of like not even FCS programs, like bad quarterbacks for like these bad teams, and they're like, oh, they hit the portal, where are they going to land? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
They're bad. Played for Princeton. No one cares. You ain't going to go anywhere. No offense.
Nope.
But that is one complication that could happen. But also, new state laws can cause extra chaos with the other NIL deals. Now, any way that you can break this down. So, yeah, people last week, maybe they didn't get to read it, maybe they didn't see it. Like, what does this even entail?
So basically, the state of Texas, state of Oklahoma, state of Arkansas, maybe a couple other states, they have now allowed where fundraising groups can offer kids NIL money now. So it's not just, boosters and stuff like. Now it's like groups of, like I saw things that were possibly like charity type groups, and then the colleges going, okay, well, you do this, we'll give you you buy these tickets, but you give us a donation for the NIL, and we'll give you this more, we'll give you this amount of perks, and this and this. Well, NCAA basically said, that's against our rules, NCAA rules. I don't care what state rules, what your state laws are saying. He said, but it's our rules that say this cannot happen. Well, Texas A&M, they say, you know what? Our state law said we can do it, so we're going to go ahead and do it anyways.
Because that's Texas.
Yeah, and so it's this big deal that because I have looked into like the OU tickets and stuff like that. They do have something where you buy season tickets and you can donate, but then you get like, okay, every so $100 or whatever you get, like you can go to like a dinner with the team or blah, this stuff. So yeah, it is different than just going, okay, well, boosters offering him this amount to come to this event or whatever. No, this is you pay money and you go, okay, well, I can just donate and then I get these perks for doing it. So NCAA is like, that don't work for us. That's against our rules. And you got teams in these states going, you know what? Well, our state law said we can do it, so we're going to go ahead and do it anyways.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen?
One of the weakest backboned like entities that you have in sports. Like it doesn't hold a lot of weight other than the fact that it's the NCAA. They don't do a very good job. That's why the commissioners of each league matter more than what the NCAA says, all this stuff. Like it's pretty insane.
Yeah. And then the NCAA, they basically came out like a day or two later and said, well, you know what? If, say, these kids have committed to these schools and they have NIL deals and a coach leaves, well, they have no obligation to uphold their agreement for the NILs, and they can keep the money, don't have to give it back, and they can leave and no consequences whatsoever. I'm like, now we're just, opening, a bigger, bag of worms, because now the whole thing with, Quinn Ewers, that was the big deal, took $1 million, basically go to Ohio State, was there for a year, and then tucked tail and ran back to Texas, and people are like, well, he got $1 million to go up there just to sit for a year, and people are like, well, that shouldn't be possible. Well, now the NCAA basically said, you know what, it's okay, we don't care. So this whole NIL deal it's out of hand. They're going to have to put some legislation. I don't know, honestly.
The thing is, like, if the NCAA can't do it, because we have already established that they're a pretty weak entity in comparison to other ones, what are you going to have all the Power Five, all the group of 5 teams all agree to it? Like, I just don't see. I don't think the commissioners are going to agree to it. Like, I just don't see the Pac-12 saying, yeah, we'll work with the Big 12, the SEC. Like, I just don't. They'll say, no, we want the better. We're not going to put those restrictions. We're fine. We have deep pockets in Texas.
The NCAA is going to have to step up and do something and put their foot down and go, okay, you broke these rules. Okay, now we're going to, put some infractions on you instead of just going, oh, well, that's the rule, so don't break it. they're going to have to do something to,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to enforce this. You break that rule, okay, then you're going to be, dealt with in a certain way. And that maybe it will, stymie some of the NIL stuff because, like I said, each college, like Texas A&M a couple years ago, you had the highest recruiting class ever.
Mm-hmm.
So there's rumors that they paid out somewhere around $30 to $40 million in NIL money. Well, you've seen that tail off a lot the last couple of years. But the thing is you only have so much money that these boosters are willing to give these kids tied up. So now that there's most of these kids are still there, they're starting to pay that money. So probably next year or the year after, we're going to see this happen again, where they're going to give out $30 to $40 million in NIL money to get these big classes to come to Texas A&M. So it's just like,
yeah. I don't think we've seen. I don't think we've seen where NIL builds champions, wins conferences. I don't think we've seen that. No. I think what we've still seen is talent and culture being the two biggest driving forces in coaching. Those three things.
Yeah. And listen to like Parker Toon and them talk. They were basically saying that now Oklahoma has one of the better NIL packages for these kids, even though it may not be the highest amount of money, but I guess like some of like the perks and stuff that they are giving these kids now is up there with the teams like a Texas A&M and Miami and Colorado now and USC, Ohio State, these teams with the deep pockets. And they're like, yeah, they may not have the type of money Oklahoma or that these teams have, Texas, but they're going to be able to compete with them because partially I think it has to do with the culture that Venables building there. But yeah, I feel like we're getting away from college football, and now we're just going into it going, okay, well, I can give you this amount of money to come here, and free agency has started.
Yeah, it's literally a minor league football or a semi-pro football.
Yeah, it really is.
If you so I don't want to go off on two sides of a tangent. I looked at some of the rules that are coming into the NBA this next season with their new CBA, and my gosh, have we forgotten how this is ruining basketball? Is really just getting messed up for me right now. It shouldn't be, but it is. Have you looked at any of the new rules, like the tournament that's in the middle of the season and stuff like that?
Yes, I've heard about that. I didn't really look into it. I know like the whole awards thing. Oh, you have to play this amount of games.
That makes sense. Stop resting players, right? And you get 20 minutes is a game played, right? So you can't just check in for 3 minutes and load management. I'm going to go ahead and head on out. Like, you can't do that. You got to play 20 minutes, which is still, at least then if I bought a ticket, I'm getting to see you play. 20 minutes is a good amount of time. But they also took away, I get this one because the one of the breakdowns I saw was like, Rudy Gobert, how many all NBA first teams does he have so far? Just take a guess. So in the past, it's been by position: 2 guards, 2 forwards. He's a center. So like, the depth
defensive wise
now.
We'll say 3.
He's got 4. So 3 was a good guess. 4. How many did Vince Carter have?
1.
2. So he wasn't the only one. There's lots of different examples. 2. Nikola Jokic this last year. Was he first team? MVP, conference MVP? No, he was not. It was Joel Embiid, which Embiid had a great season, but because they had to do it that way, like that's who it was, and that's fine. But they're doing away with the position, so people like Rudy Gobert don't have more than Vince Carter and stuff like that. So that's okay. The minimum games played definitely makes sense. I thought they were going to lower it at first when I was reading it. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, are you? But that's obviously a problem. The play-in tournament is the biggest joke I think I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
They're only going to schedule 80 games. Then if you make the play-in tournaments like knockout stage, then you get up to 83 games. But if you don't, then you get 2 other games that are scheduled against teams that didn't. It's so complicated. It's just stupid. Like, either just do a tournament and it doesn't count towards your regular season record, and the winning pot is $500,000 for these. Draymond Green just got like, how much money did he get? And he is terrible. He's terrible now.
Oh yeah, he got. I mean, the NBA contracts are insane. Desmond Bain got $207
Dude,
million.
that would blow my mind. I get it. Like the dude 21, 24, something like that average. And I had to look up his stats. It's like, how is he getting this much money?
So I had this argument with someone about him and LaMelo Ball. You know, LaMelo Ball.
He's gonna play 8 games. He's Steven Strasburg in basketball.
Yeah, and this is the thing they were trying to say. Okay, the value for Bain just isn't there, and I was like, okay, so you're telling me that 207 for Desmond Bain, who has the potential, and I think this year could put himself in there as a top 5 D3 guy in NBA, compared to LaMelo Ball, who scored 2 or 3 more points per game, had 1 or 2 more assists, 1 or 2 more rebounds, but shot worse from 3, from the field, and from the free throw line, and only played 36 games, and then has only played 1 year where he played more than 60 games, and that was his second year. But he's worth 260. But you don't think Desmond Bain, who has played almost every single year, I mean, played 70 games each couple of years, and is averaging 25 and 5, isn't worth 207. And on top of that, he's a really good defender in the NBA.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I was like, no, people are getting too much into the name of LaMelo Ball. I'm like, I think we're going to see a lot what happened with his brother. He's probably better than his brother, but he's going to have these injuries where
it's already on the board. Like, we know the play. We know he's going to get hurt. Fantasy wise, why would you even draft? Like, it's not going to be good. I cannot understand how we're still spending this much money. And to top it off, Michael Jordan isn't even on that ownership team anymore. And and I'm like, that's a Michael Jordan move.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I have a friend. He's a big Hornets fan. He lived in Charlotte for a while, loves ball. And I'm like, man, this is a bad deal. You can't even trade this deal.
No, and it's almost kind of like the whole Zion deal. I mean,
bad deal too.
Yeah, absolutely horrible deal. And now you're like, okay, people are like, oh, they'll trade him for the 3rd pick and this and that. And I'm like, I don't give that much up for that guy that's going to be on the court for 20 games maybe. In 20 games, I'm getting lucky. He's played 97 games over the last 3 years. Yeah, 20 games in the season. I'm feeling lucky if I get that.
Yeah. A little side note before we wrap back around, unless there's any other thoughts you had.
No, we're good.
Okay. If with the minimum game threshold, if it had been in play the last 6 years or whatever it was, LeBron James doesn't make an All-NBA team the last 3 years or 4 years, one of the two, because he doesn't play enough anymore because of the load management. Load management is ruining the NBA as well as lack of defense. So all that was because what I'm saying is the NBA is probably the most player-driven league that we have in sports. NFL is the most owner-driven. It's not even close. This is a business, right? Not guaranteed contracts. Running backs know that this is not a good position to be playing in the NFL because the guys like Zeke and Cook are on the wire, and no one's going to go pick them up and pay them because, I could just go ahead and ask Giovanni Bernard to come out of retirement and pay him a nickel. And, okay, that's just what's going to happen. So the NIL and players transferring, all this other stuff this is a nightmare that if you don't get it under control, like you said, we're going to be down a pitfall here that's of our own making here in 5 years, right? In a couple of years. Albeit Colorado is going to have a better program than Georgia at that time. I'm kidding. I'm still standing by that. I believe in my guy, Coach Bryant. So, all right. So now I'm going to wrap back around we go into college football season. It literally is next month. I just cannot wait. It's next month. I always think through. Last week, August, is week 0, which means we are one technical calendar month away. Flipping the calendar over, football month. Okay. So of these big major programs, what is the most likely to have a good turnaround season? What I mean by turnaround season is you look at what they did last year and you look at this team's schedule and roster and you're like, 9 wins, I can see that happening. Possible conference championship game, I could see that happening. So if you look at this team, obviously we have Oklahoma as a big name in there. Last year was the first losing season they'd had in quite some time. But you also look at, we already mentioned Miami was another name on here. Texas A&M, we laughed at them a lot last year. That was a good time. They're another team. Who was the other ones? Auburn. with a lot of shifting sands. They had their Florida Gators, and I think that was the 5 that I had. Oh, Nebraska. Most likely to get to 9 wins and or compete for a conference championship.
It's Oklahoma by a long shot, and a lot of those. I don't know if Miami has what it is to get there. I think I'm probably higher on Tyler Van Dyke than a lot of people were. I think Van Dyke got a bad rap last year. The amount of drops he had, the wide receiver group he had there was real bad, and they bring in some guys, and so they may be able to. But I mean, being in the ACC, they may be able to get something going there. But I don't know if they can really compete with Florida State or with Clemson this year. I don't believe anything when it comes to Texas A&M football. Jimbo Fisher to me is the most overrated coach in college football. And then on top of that, you bring in Bobby Petrino thinking that this is going to, turn around the offense. Yeah, I think Connor Wigman is a decent quarterback, but I don't see it,
man.
Yeah.
I have not seen it that this is the year that they're going to compete in the SEC division that they're in. Still haven't not having to play Georgia, but still be in the same division or whatever. But it's I completely agree. I think Florida for me is Florida and A&M are the ones I believe in the least that they're making the right turn. Like they're going to get recruits, they're going to have the talent clearly, but will they have the right culture around them? I think Nebraska is the one that I'm like, I don't see them competing in the Big Ten this year. I see them turning the page. And I think 3 years from now is hopefully when they're starting to compete for, I probably won't even have divisions at that point either when, USC and UCLA are there, but they'll be competing to have a shot at least, top half team in that division, which clearly they were not last year.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Matt Rule, if you look at his track record, it's always the second year where they take the big jump. And so I don't think this year will be I mean, you never know. I don't think the Big Ten is that tough. And so maybe they can get some guy in there. I'm not big on Jeff Sims either, though, the quarterback that would probably be starting for Nebraska. But I do like Matt Rule, and I think next year would be the year that I would, bet on them taking a jump. It says they may win 3 or 4 more, a couple more games this year than they won last year. But I think next year would be the year that you see them, get close to that 9 mark and maybe even compete for the Big Ten championship, just because Matt Rule finally kind of had things going. Like his second year at Temple, he went from 1 win to I think to like 7 or 8 wins. Same thing with Baylor. Went to Baylor, had I don't even know they had a win this first year, and then 8 or 9 wins the next season. Then, so I think that's probably what will happen. So yeah, I think Oklahoma is the only answer here. I don't believe in what Florida has got is putting out there yet. I do like Napier. I think Napier can probably turn the thing around for them, but I just don't think it's right now or maybe even next year. And like I said, I probably trust Texas A&M the least out of any of them because I'm just not big on Jimbo Fisher.
No hard feelings or anything like that towards the guy. No. I agree with you. So here's the question. What is the big program that's expected to do well this year that's most likely to drop? I mean, when you're looking at it from a very like I'm sitting in the chair in the beginning of July, and I'm looking at it, the most likely to be the Oklahoma of last year, be the Texas A&M, right? Like the team that, oh, wow, that was not what we expected.
I think the one name that I see a lot of people are hyping up a lot this year is Penn State. Everyone's Penn State.
Yes.
And I'm not a James Franklin fan. I think he's right up there with Jimbo Fisher as one of the most overrated coaches. I do love Drew Allar, more than likely be the quarterback this year for Penn State. I think the kid is a stud, but I don't trust in what James Franklin has been able to put on the field consistently. Yeah, they're in the top 25, but everyone's always expecting a whole lot more from them, and never deliver on that. And so I just don't see it this year. And maybe this is their chance. Ohio State, they're going to have a new quarterback. Michigan's. I think right now Michigan probably to me is the best team in that conference, but maybe with the somewhat down Big Ten, they have a chance. I don't trust James Franklin. I think people give the guy a lot of credit for being one of the best coaches in college football, and I'm just like, man, the track record for me doesn't show it. They talk what he did with Vanderbilt and brought him up. They were never good when he was there. 6 or 7 wins, yeah, it's decent for Vanderbilt, but you act like that he resurrected someone from the dead and you turn him into a perennial college football playoff team or whatever. And then they're like, well, he had nothing whenever he went to Penn State. Well, that's not true because Bill O'Brien had built that program.
What year did he get to Penn State? I don't even remember.
Honestly, I can't remember. It's somewhere around the 2013, 2014 season, maybe.
Well, he's off back-to-back 11-win seasons, and I get that, but it does seem like they beat the teams they should beat, and they lose against those big programs, the Blue Bloods, the Ohio States, the Michigans. What's crazy to me is this year they get Ohio State on the road, Michigan at home, and Michigan State is how they finish the season on the road. You just chalk that up. They're not, of those 3 games, they'll be lucky to win 2. And you can't win that division. You can't win that conference if you don't win those games.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, but the rest of this, I mean, this is a team that should win, that could win 11 games again. Lose 2 games in the regular season, win a bowl game, 11-2.
But the thing is before you look, did you know that Penn State had 11 wins last year? Based off of what you remember,
probably 9 and 10 with the bowl win, right? Like 9 and 3 in the bowl win. I did not guess.
And that's the thing. That's exactly you go. Okay, yeah, they've won 11 games back years, but you watch them and you go, that's an 11-win team. No, I haven't seen it. Sean Clifford was not a great quarterback. Everyone, they're like, oh, Clifford's back. Last year, I'm like, why would you want the guy back? What he did the year before was just absolutely terrible. And then they go and they take out Auburn down in Auburn last year, and they're like, oh, they took out an SEC team. Auburn was
and they were
absolutely awful last year.
And bad.
Yeah, they were awful last year. So it's not like you took out a tough Auburn team, maybe a couple of years ago when, at least when they had Bo Nix, they were, somewhat of a threat. Maybe Bo Nix would have a big game, here and there. But yeah, I just, it wasn't an impressive 11-win team. And I don't think that they have it. They have good running backs. And they always seem to be able to find some defensive guys, but man, you lose Joey Porter, then you lose Jair Brown also on that defense. You lose a couple, wide receivers off that team. Now you're kind of going, okay, we've lost some big name guys. We got basically a freshman quarterback starting, and Drew Allard, and we got some good running backs, but can we beat Ohio State and Michigan? I don't think so.
Yeah, 2 of the programs that stick out outside of that it would be Kentucky. I'm not sold yet. I know a lot of people are like, no, this is a system. This is a team that you look up at the end of the year, they're going to be 8-5 again or 7-6. The UCLA is another one. I am nervous about what it looks like past DTR. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, okay, I'm making sure I was remembering his name. And then there was one other one. Where did it go? Before Sam Howell went to Notre Dame was they're always one of the ones that I'm always like, yeah, they're not going to be as good as everyone thinks. But we both like Sam Howell. We both think that he's going to make them more competitive and probably more fun team to watch. Hartman. That's what I meant, not Howell. My bad.
Hey, it was a Sam that played in the state of North Carolina at some point.
I know. You got me right there. I cannot remember for the life of me who it is. And this is going to bug me because I was thinking of it and I should have said it. That's all right.
Can we throw Texas out there? I mean, the perennial 7-5 Texas.
If we say this, man, like I mean, they were 8-5 last year. Realistically, if you looked at the FPI rankings, whatever it is that they do, have you seen those yet? So the number 1 team, Ohio State, will have a new quarterback. Number 2, Alabama, new quarterback. Number 3, Georgia, new quarterback. But I think I have more confidence in them. I would probably put them at number 1. LSU on there. Number 5, your boys, Texas. Orange down.
You got to prove it to me.
Michigan, USC is 7, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Penn State was 10. OU is 11.
Yeah, I mean, when are we going to stop hyping up Texas before they do anything to prove that they are actually good? I mean,
8-5 last year. With what should have been, a very winnable conference.
You know how many teams have won the Big 12 since the last time Texas has won the Big 12?
3.
5.
Oh my gosh, 5. Okay, let me see if I can get this. We got Baylor, right? We got OU,
Mhm.
obviously.
Mhm.
We have TCU and K State. And wait,
No
which one did
TCU.
I get? No T.
Nope.
Oh, they didn't win. That's right. K State
Nope.
won last year. Okay, so I
You got Kansas State is also. There's one other one.
so it's 4.
Yeah.
Iowa State won. I forgot about that.
Nope.
Didn't they? No, they
Nope.
didn't. Dude, I can't guess anymore. I'm gonna guess all the teams, and this is gonna be embarrassing.
Brandon Whedon.
Oh, right.
Oklahoma
Yeah,
State.
2008 or something like that.
It was like 2011, 2012.
2012, something like that. This is on a trivia. I got a trivia question for you. A little.
But yeah, that just tells you what they won it 2008, so it's like 15 years. Oklahoma has 6 of those or 7 of those, in that span too. So it's just people are talking about Texas, and they have some great players. I think wide receiver wise, they may have the best wide receiver group in college football with Xavier Worthy and Whittington, and you get an A.D. Mitchell from Georgia. They've got a great wide receiver group. They have the potential to have a really good offensive line group with that recruiting class that they brought in last year. But we're all basing this off of what potential that Quinn Ewers could have, but not looking at what Quinn Ewers did last year, where it was so abysmal. I mean, we talked about these numbers a couple weeks ago about the down the field throwing, where he was only completed, like, out of the 48 20 plus passes, he only completed like 16 or 17 of them, none for touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and then passes over 6 yards or more, he was completing like 52%. How do you look at that and go, okay, they potentially could push for a national championship? That some of these guys, realistically, you think that this is a national championship contending team. And I'm just like, if he doesn't take that step, then how can you say that? Because Arch Manning is not going to be ready.
He's not, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. True freshman, you don't expect him to be able to step in and lead that team to a national championship.
Quinn to be ready.
Yeah, you sat a year behind.
He's way behind.
Yeah, you sat a year behind Justin Fields or no, not Justin Fields at that time. C.J. Stroud. You sat behind C.J. Stroud for a year with a great quarterback coach in Ryan Day, and you learned nothing.
Yeah, so I think he should have stayed, right? Like this whole notion of I got to transfer, go and get playing. Bro, you ain't ready. You haven't put in the work yet, or you're not cut up to speed, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. It's stupid hard to play at that level. You wait. And it's why, like, I'm thinking, like, when I read the FPI, Ohio State's number 1. Yeah, I mean, the super talented Marvin Harrison Jr.'s out there. Like, I don't care who plays quarterback. They're going to be good, right?
Yeah, I mean,
like, Stetson Bennett just won back-to-back national championships. That dude was not that good. Mm-hmm. I mean, we saw so many teams with Alabama win championships that I just trust the program enough, right?
Jake Coker. I mean, Jake Coker was a national championship leading quarterback for Alabama. I guarantee you most people wouldn't be able to throw that name out there. Jake Coker, then so that makes sense. But I don't get why everyone's so big on on Texas this year, because they're like, their defense, they have the best defense in the Big 12. What defense last year did they throw out there that got any better? Losing guys. Yeah, they got a few guys in transfer portal like everyone else, but they lost guys, to the draft and to the transfer portal. And now you think, okay, they're that much better than they were last year? And then on top of that, I don't believe in Sarkisian as a head coach. I think he's a solid offense coordinator.
Have you seen his record?
Yeah, not good.
And again, how is this not last year should have been their year to win that Big 12. It should have been their year. Same thing, it should have been OSU's year to compete, and they fell apart. Like, these teams, like, just take it. Do you want it or not? And I say that from the sidelines because I'm not doing anything except talking about it. Who cares?
I guess out of all the years, maybe this year could be the year, because I think the Big 12 is pretty weak, compared to what it was last year. I think, with CTC, you have a down year. We've obviously talked about Oklahoma State. We think Oklahoma State's going to have a down year. West Virginia, not going to be any good. Iowa State. So I think this should be, potentially the year, but we say this every year with Texas for the last 15 years. Oh, this is the year. this is the year. They're back.
Yeah, I've
And
seen this enough.
8-5 last year. Yeah, that's a decent year for them compared to what they've been doing, before that. So I don't buy it at all because if I don't think they have any shot at beating Alabama this year. I still
Alabama.
I don't care who the quarterback for Alabama is. The I don't know how last year's game was even as close as it was, but I don't know. I feel like Oklahoma, and I'm sure this is going to sound absolutely biased from everything. I feel like Oklahoma has the more complete team around them to compete and should win the Big 12 this year. And there's a lot of people that have Oklahoma, believing that we're in this lull where we're going to see 7-5, 8-5, constantly over the next few years. And I feel like this year, I don't think a lot of people realize Oklahoma lost 6 games last year by a field goal.
Yeah,
by a field goal.
But stupid. It got annoying. Can you name the teams that Texas lost to last year?
Well, I know they lost to Alabama. They lost to TCU.
Boom.
So Alabama, TCU, Kansas State.
No, they did beat Kansas State by 1 on the road. It was an impressive win. That was because of BJ Roberts.
Texas Tech.
Yes, Texas Tech on the road. One more. On the
Baylor.
Oklahoma State on the road. Last year on the road they were 1.
Yeah.
2 of their losses came on the road. So that wasn't many. Washington they also lost to. So that was bowl. But I look at this team right now, and I look at 2 games. One I'm going to circle as the last one of the season against Texas Tech. It's a Friday at home, but it's a Friday, bro. Tech on a Friday. It's like Iowa State on a Thursday. Why? Like that, you just know it's going to be tough.
Black Friday.
That's true.
They used to play Texas A&M every year on Black Friday, and then when Texas A&M left and went to the SEC, they pretty much are trying to find someone else, and I think they kind of threw Texas Tech in there the last few years.
Well, they got at Iowa State, at TCU. Are they going to win both of them? I mean, they're going to have to go 3-0 in those games. I think you're right. I think this is a team. Luckily for them, they get BYU at home, so they're not going to go to altitude on that one. They get K-State at home. You get Oklahoma. It seems late to do it in October. Is that late? It just feels like that's always a late September game, not an early October game.
Lately, it's been like the first or second week of Big 12 play.
Well, this one is the 3rd.
Is it?
Okay. I don't know. But also Baylor on the road. I don't know. This team you could look up and hopefully they keep their head above water because it's a big name program. So at least for the Big 12's purposes, you want them to be good. Anytime it's OU Texas in the Red River game, you want them to be good. But I think we'll break down the conferences as we get closer. I mean, we're going to have media days, I think, next week starting for some of these conferences. So it's a huge – I mean, just thinking that we're going to be breaking down BYU, Houston, UCF, and Cincy now with this league. And then next year we're going to be adding UCLA and USC in the Big Ten. It's going to be weird.
Then we'll be throwing the Oklahoma and Texas into the SEC, breaking down – It's going to be an interesting year. I think this year's college football, I don't really look and see one team. I go, okay, they are absolutely the front runner. Like last year, we all knew Georgia was the front runner from the get-go. This year, I mean, you got all these big teams with quarterback questions,
Exactly.
Yeah, you got Alabama quarterback question. Bryce Young's gone. Now you bring in kid from Notre Dame. Can he be the guy? You got Georgia. Is it Carson Beck? Is it Brock Vandergriff? Who's going to be the starting quarterback there? Ohio State seems like theirs is more cut and dry. Who is going to be the starting quarterback? Kyle McCord should be it.
They also have, I think, the most trust just naturally given. I think Alabama right now has the least. Like they're the one I'm most worried about. I'm sure we'll talk about that more, but
yeah. And then same with Clemson. I mean, you got Cade Klubnik. I think out of all of them, is probably the most safe, just because at least he's got somewhat experience. The kid from Notre Dame, we've seen him have a lot of chance. Buckner had a lot of chance at Notre Dame, and one couldn't stay on the field, kept on getting hurt. And then whenever it came big time, games, the kid just never showed up. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting way. I might have an interesting team that I have right now sitting at number 1.
Are you going to say it or are you going to wait?
I'll wait.
All right. Let's see if it changes. But if it changes, you have to let us know who the team was originally.
Okay, yeah. No, I don't think it will change between then and there, between now and then. But yeah,
Yeah, we'll have to do our pick, who's going to be in the playoff, all that kind of stuff. And this is the last year, correct? Or is there 2 more years of the 4 teams?
I think it's 2025 is when it first
Okay,
starts. Yeah.
2 more years.
So
Okay.
I think this year and next year.
All the changes in sports: baseball this year, basketball this year, this upcoming season, NFLs with their extra games, is all the extra stuff. So, all right, I feel like that was a pretty good warm up for football season. That's the title of the episode is going to be. It's July, so let's talk football. That's literally the title of the episode.
I mean, if you guys don't know, you get us talking college football or just even NFL football. It can take up a good portion of the time because, we like some college football and some NFL.
And there's so many teams. It just gets me excited. Yeah. All right, so we're going to start off this baseball segment. So if you waited around for baseball, thanks for hanging out with us a little bit longer. If you didn't already know, I'm going to go and plug this in the middle here. Usually I wait till the end. I'm going to do it now. Follow us on Instagram, the W Sports Podcast, with little dots between all the words, the .w podcast. I guess it's W, not sports.
Yeah, the .w podcast.
Yeah. So go ahead and give them the Twitter and the YouTube.
And then the Twitter is the _W _podcast. Then I think what YouTube is the capital W, or it's the capital W sport
at the W Sports Podcast.
Yeah,
so.
something.
We really got to know this. When you take
that one's a little bit longer than the other ones, but I think there's this weird thing with the YouTube one where the W is capitalized and not lowercase like some of them.
It is, but you can just hit the W dot. If you just search the W Sports Podcast, you'll find it.
You just search the W Sports Podcast, pops up because we're the only W Sports.
You just
podcast.
Go to the link tree. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, link tree works out perfect.
WPodcast.com, whatever.
Yeah.
Subscribe to the show if you haven't already, as you download it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We greatly appreciate it. And most importantly, head on over to YouTube every single Monday about 6:30. We always go live here. You can join the chat. You can put your questions, your thoughts. You can say things like, hey, Jalen Hurts is a one and done. And then we can put our opinion, but then you can retort with your opinion. I'm just saying it's a fun podcast. We love that you're a part of it too. And so make sure that you're a part of it in some way or some fashion. That's all I can say.
I mean, nailed it.
Well, I mean, yeah, we kind of got there eventually. All right, so baseball. Let's go ahead and talk some baseball here. So first half of the season's over. Going into this offseason, coming for this season, right? Going into spring of 2023, we were talking about huge needs and just big name players of shortstops. So I'm going to read 4 shortstops. I can give you their stats. You can tell me which one you would take and which one's the right deal. So I threw in a wild card 4th. You're going to love it. Okay. So the first one, 218 batting average, 11 home runs, 37 RBIs. And I can also give you OPS. But the defensive WAR is at 0.7.
Okay.
So again, you already know there's one wild card and there's the 3 big name guys that were signed this offseason. So you had to decide who's who. They're also in the show notes. I don't know if you can pull those up on your, probably can't.
It'll just go black.
Okay, so if you did, I would be able to show you that, but I don't think I can. All right, so the next one is 259 average, 9 home runs, 35 RBIs, and 1.5 defensive WAR. Feeling pretty good so far?
I think so.
Okay. Any guesses? I can go and write them down as we go.
So I think the first one's Carlos Correa.
Okay, so I'm going to put CC on that one. Okay, and the second one?
The second one, I'm going to say Xander Bogaerts.
Okay, I'm just going to that one because there's only one Xander.
I'm between him and I feel like Dansby's average is a little bit higher than Bogaerts is.
Okay, well, here we go. So the third option is a 231 average, 12 home runs, 26 RBIs, and 0.4 WAR on the defensive side. And then the fourth is a 252 average, 8 home runs, 28 RBIs, and a 0.1 WAR on the defensive side.
Yeah.
I know when I had the fourth one, it kind of gets tough, but
I'm trying to think of the other guys. Oh, Trey Turner's in there.
I didn't include Trey. My bad. He's
okay. I was trying to think of like I was trying to think of like all of the big name guys and who's the other, so I feel like I think Dansby was actually number 2, and I want to say Bogaerts is number 3. And then what was the stats for number 4?
.252 average, 8 home runs, 28 RBIs, and a .1 WAR. I should have also given you win-loss records from all these guys. They're all in the negative.
They're in the negative. Ooh,
They're all bad.
all bad. Man, I cannot think of another shortstop. And these were all free agents this year.
No.
Okay.
Wild card, so they weren't signed, but this was a team retained them that most people would have considered they need a shortstop.
Oh, okay.
And they didn't sign one. They retained who they had in-house. So I can give you another hint.
The last one's Paul DeYoung.
So you think number 4? The last one is not Paul DeYoung. So you had the first two right. The first one at 218 average, the youngest of the bunch. I think he's the youngest, isn't he? The youngest? Carlos Correa.
Probably.
Correct. 0.7. The biggest thing that Gliders out is he's just not hitting the ball very well. The second one is Dansby Swanson. He has the best defensive stats so far, 9 home runs. He had the second best OPS. The third was Paul DeYoung.
Oh.
Paul DeYoung, a 231 average, which is like a career high at this point. But 0.4 WAR. Xander is a 250 average, 8 home runs, 20 RBIs, a below average 713 OPS with a 0.1 defensive WAR. This is why I threw that in there. I was shocked. So all that to be said, the Cardinals this weekend were saying, hey, look, we kept the right guy. No. Still not buying it. But that being said, including you throw in Trey Turner on this, and this has been a very disappointing first half for these shortstops.
Yeah. It's been this whole baseball season has just been very obscure for the first half. Yeah, but I thought maybe Bogaerts' average had dropped a little bit further than the 250 mark. That's why I thought, okay, the 230 was probably him. But yeah, I don't know. It's just out of all those, I think my guy that I would have rather had when it came free agency would have obviously been Trey Turner, but I knew for the Dodgers that was absolutely no shot, was Xander Bogaerts. But then the contract he got, I was like, yeah, definitely didn't want him. I'd much rather have Dansby Swanson because he's the more, at least he's a consistent hitter, decent, when it comes to defense, and seems like maybe he's gotten over the injury bug the last few years.
Which has been good. But I think we would have ranked him almost the same. Like Trey Turner was like, oh yeah, no problem. He's the number one. Right now, this year, I could have thrown him in there, but because he's come alive a little bit more. I almost put stolen bases, but that would have been too obvious. He's sub 250. He's at 249 average going into today. 8 home runs, 28 RBIs. I don't know I need to find out what his WAR was.
But I mean, 249 average for that guy that should be in the 300s and in the 295 at the worst. To me, it's just you gave this kid this big of a contract, and now it's just it hasn't worked out for him. This is something I thought possibly could happen with this team, and they have played a little bit better over the recent stretch. But right now you're looking at Bryce Harper, and you're like, who is this guy? He hasn't homered since May 25th.
Yeah, so maybe he's not back to 100% yet.
No, I mean that's over a whole month that he hasn't hit a home run. And that was one thing when they pushed him as fast as they did. I was like, it reminds me kind of what the Dodgers did last year with Max Muncy, where, oh, well, he's not going to be, pitching. So the elbow, he can DH and won't be throwing the ball really. We can push him into the, DH role real quick. And he just had an absolutely awful year. And then kind of compounded into this season also.
Yeah. Oh, all that said, the Phillies are third in their division with a +6 run differential. But you look at the team, they have the pieces to make it work, and the NL is pretty much a jumbled mess outside of Atlanta. I mean, maybe the Diamondbacks you could even throw in there still at 50. They're 15 over 500, which I don't think anybody really had at this point. 15. I mean, they were on pace for like 96, 97 wins. Did anybody have them? I mean, I think we probably would have said 88. 90, maybe 90.
Yeah.
So looking at the first half teams, I think there's quite a few storylines we could hit here. Any All-Star game obviously is this upcoming weekend. So Home Run Derby has some big names in it for once. There's always like one dud that I'm like, Baltimore Orioles, that's the dud this year, I think. He's good. I'm just not excited about him like I am the rest of the guys.
I see. I didn't see all the people that were in the home run derby.
Oh, I can pull it up real quick.
I know Mookie was in there. I think Vlad was in there. Julio, but the other ones I didn't really see.
Adley Rutschman is the Orioles I was talking about. He has 11 home runs. It's not bad. Pete Alonso, he's going to win the home run derby. I don't even know why we're playing. Randy Rosarania, I think people are going to love him out there. Mookie Betts, you mentioned him. Vlad Jr., you mentioned him. Julio Rodriguez, the hometown boy. I think he's the one that most people want, but he hasn't even had a good. He's getting it because it's his hometown, right?
Yeah,
which makes sense. You need someone like that. Like the Todd Frazier rule.
Todd Frazier, yeah.
You got to have the hometown kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it should be an exciting home run derby to say the least.
Yeah.
I mean,
who's your pick to win it?
I'm gonna go Vlad.
I'm gonna go Pete. He's done it.
I mean, Pete will probably win, but I'm gonna go Vlad. I'm gonna go different. I'm gonna go Vlad.
Okay, that's fine. Both of them are, built to do it. We've seen Pete do it too much. Yeah. I don't really know much about the ballpark though in Seattle. I think that
yeah,
we're both righty, so it doesn't really matter. But
yeah, maybe Adley has the upper hand, being a lefty.
I mean,
or maybe if he bats lefty. I think he is a switch hitter, so he may.
Well, you have to see which one he wants to do. But so you're looking at the first half, the all-star snubs. Any of them that they played their tail off, and here we are. They're not an all-star right now.
Yeah, how does Wander Franco not make it? I don't care how many guys Tampa has on there. How does he not make it, and how does Whit Merrifield make it?
I think who's Whit Merrifield play for right now?
The Blue Jays.
So, and then who does Wander Franco play for?
He plays for Tampa Bay, but
that's the problem. Like, you're not going to get he needed to have that. And I get it. The writers, everybody else should have voted him in correctly. Yes.
You can't look at those stats and tell me the guy don't deserve it, though.
No, I know. I agree. I'm not disagreeing. Like, I definitely think he should have.
I don't care where he's playing. You're batting 290 or is 289, 295, something like that. But you have the second or third highest WAR in baseball. You have 9 home runs, 30 some RBIs. You have like 20 something stolen bases. Mm-hmm. Whit Merrifield's batting like 290 and has like 2 home runs and like 22 RBIs, if that. Yeah. How does that guy get in? Because it's not the rule to go, every team got to have one person in there. You already got guys from Blue Jays on there, so why put him in over Wander Franco? It makes no sense to me. I don't care if the Rays had 10 guys in there already. Give me Wander Franco because the guy absolutely deserves to be in the All-Star game this year.
Yeah. No, I'm in agreement with you. I think he definitely should have. He's been one of the best players this year in baseball. Like, he's both sides of the ball, which is what the All-Star game should be about. It shouldn't just be about only offense, but your terrible defense, unless you're DH. That's fine.
Yeah. And then I think, what's his name? Closer from Pittsburgh, Bedard.
Yes.
David Bednar. Yeah, the fact he didn't make it is also a head scratcher to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like what does he have? Like a 1.70 ERA, 14 saves this year. Great. Yeah. How does he not make it?
Dude, all right. Sorry. Behind me is the Cardinals Marlins game. Nicholas is going off on this ump. Just a really good pitch that wasn't framed and it was too low. He is heated. Yeah, I was the first one I was upset about initially was Goldschmidt because he has been really good this year. He's been very consistent, but I'm not Matt Olson. All right, fine. Who else? Obviously, Freddie Freeman should be the starter. Pete Alonso. All right, that's fine. I can't argue with the guys that made it over him. I was happy to see Kershaw. He's been dominant. It's very sneaky Kershaw lately. I don't know. You haven't mentioned him. I don't know if it's on purpose. But he did get hurt and put on the IL. Didn't he get put on the IL?
I think it's more just precautionary thing. The way I read it was basically they said if he needed to, he could have started. But I think it was kind of we're getting close to All-Star break. Let's throw him on the IL, bring up a young guy, let him pitch, a game or two, and yeah.
For the most part, I was okay with a lot of the starters across the board. Nick Castellanos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's okay. He's had a good bounce back year.
Yep.
JD Martinez, same thing. Man, he has figured something else out. It's that Dodger effect.
Yep.
So overall, I'm not upset about it. I did want to see Shohei Ohtani make it twice, and he did.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. I did send you that. Did I send you that thing with the Shohei Ohtani versus dude? That
the
was
Matt Olson thing.
Matt
Yeah,
Olson.
come on.
You're right, 0. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Are you in tune with watching the game this year?
I mean, I watch it typically, but I don't know if I really invest a whole lot into it.
I did when there was, home field advantage on the line,
Yeah.
but I don't really now. It's still better than the other game, the NBA
Pro Bowl
game, but a Pro Bowl. Like, gosh, what
Yeah.
they've done. Guys are just worried about getting hurt all the time now. So,
yeah. No, I enjoy it just because it's baseball and really not a whole lot going on in the middle of the summer. So you got to, sports wise, you got to find something to watch. But yeah, I mean, it's like everyone, you get amped up for the home run derby. I'd like to see him throw a few more things in there, like back in the old days, they had the catcher competition, trying to throw people out at second, pot times, stuff like that. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah,
or
fun skills competition.
Yeah, first to home, from home to home, fastest time. I'd like to see that. I mean, you get Elly out there, you get Corbin Carroll out there.
Dude, I think that would be fun. You're definitely right onto something there. I think they should explore it at least. I think
the NHL All-Star, the skills events. Even before I even really got into hockey this last part of the season, I would watch the skills event just because I mean it's fun to watch. So yeah, do something like that. Get more people excited about it.
Yeah, with the Pro Bowl, I always love that stuff. The quarterback challenges. I don't care about dodgeball, but I want to see the other stuff. And that was always so much fun. All right, so we have to hit it because we didn't get to talk about it last week. The perfect game. Well, obviously didn't get to because it's afterwards. But the perfect game, dude. I didn't even know until the next day. I was so busy at work. I was so frustrated. All of a sudden, I'm like, whoa, hold on, perfect game. And then I saw who it was. I mean, how much credit does he get? I mean, it was against the A's. It wasn't one of those 16 strikeouts. Man, he's got to stop. Like, lots of weak contact. Like, lots of guys that were just barely putting the bat to the ball and just grounders. I mean, he still did it.
I give him all credit. I don't care who it's against. I don't care if it was, you had 27 ground outs or I don't care. Yeah, you still did it. And it's probably not even exactly 24. There may be a couple guys that have done it a couple times, but it's only the 24th time ever in all of baseball. So no matter who is against or what happened, you still did it.
Yeah.
So I give you all credit. I don't care if it was against the A's. I don't care if it was against a minor league. Okay, probably if it was against a minor league team. But no, you still did it. You still had to be perfect.
Yeah, he at least bought himself some more time in the starting rotation for maybe 5-6 more starts.
Yeah,
he was not looking like he's going to stick around too much longer. Alek Manoah, it's fine. He's going to be good. No, he gets lit up for 10 more earned runs. I don't know if he had another start since then, but dude, this is you put the question in the notes. Does he have the yips? What do you think?
I don't know if you can call it the yips. I don't know what you call it.
Can you call it the yips? You're playing rookie ball.
I don't know, because typically with the yips, it's like you can't throw the ball home too well, or you're. It's kind of like Ricky and Keel, whenever he had the yips and he was overthrowing the catcher, so many wild pitches. It's really not the case with Manoah. It's the fact that I honestly don't know what it is. I'm lost. I don't understand how you go from second or third in the Cy Young Award, and now you're giving up 11 earned runs in the Florida Complex League.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'd say it has to be the yips. Like, it has to with this. It has to. If he was doing this in major leagues, which he was, this is why he got sent down. And then you do the same thing against worse talent. It has to be the yips. Like, that's the only constant.
I mean, but I would think if it's the yips, the walk rate would be a lot higher than what it is. I mean, you only gave up 2 walks. You gave up 11 earned runs.
That's true. Type down the middle, just 91 down the middle and see what happens. Oh, it's rookie ball. I can. Yeah, no,
I don't know. I'm absolutely lost because this was my Cy Young Award pick this year.
Well, it could have been worse. I mean, I don't know. The Cardinals pick that I had is about as bad. So it's okay. So we got some other things before we get to some of the other things. That was a redundant sentence. Sorry about that, everybody listening. If you want to rewind and then fast forward 30 seconds, I think that would make sense, and at least it would make this last 12 seconds make even more sense. So Elly de la Cruz hits for the first cycle for the Reds. Man, this Reds team, are you a buyer for this team, or do you think they're, hey, we're 1 year away, like Pittsburgh Pirates at this point, 5 games under 500, 5-5, lost 2 in a row. They're under the run differential. Are you a buyer, or are you like, I think they peaked and here we are?
I'm not a buyer in the sense that I think that they can compete in the playoffs. I think they possibly have a really good chance at winning this division because it doesn't seem like anyone else wants to.
Yeah, Brewers are sneaky.
Got,
46 and 39, which is not a great record, but that's on pace for 87 wins. I think that's the question: is can the Reds get to 89 wins? If they can get to 89 wins, maybe.
I mean, the young talent that they brought up this year has definitely infused a different type of energy into the Reds organization. So if Elly's able to stay on this role, Matt McClain able to stay on this role, Hunter Green's pitching decent this year. You get all these young collective of guys just kind of keep going the way they're going. And I feel like they got another guy down in the minor leagues that can absolutely come up and just exert more offense into it, and Christian Encarnacion Strand. And maybe I think there's a chance that 89 wins they could do it and win this division because, like I said, it doesn't really seem like a whole lot of teams really want to. You would look at this and you go, okay, the Cardinals are in last place. You would expect the Brewers to be a runaway favorite right now
for sure,
and they're not.
No,
yeah, and so that's what makes me go. I think that they could push for this division and win it. Do I think that they're a big threat when it comes to playoffs? Probably not, just because the moment may be a little too big for them at this point with the young guys that they have. And I don't know a whole lot if the rotation can hold up when it comes to the playoff time. But to say they win this division and make the playoffs, I don't think it'd be the most absurd thing.
Yeah, no, it definitely wouldn't, especially with the extra spot. I think at the very least, this means that they're not selling at the deadline. Yeah, unless they absolutely have a Cardinals run or a Pirates run, where they just tank, bottom out. But at least right now, even after that massive win streak, they're 6-4. I mean, so they're still treading water head above water, which should keep them in the right position. So if you look at that team, we're not really buying them. We're kind of pushing. They're not going to sell off. But if you look, one team that did make a trade this last week, which I thought was they pulled the trigger a little quick. They're the Royals for Chapman to get rid of him. I don't understand why they didn't wait, drive up the price, see what other teams want to be involved. This is kind of like what the Brewers did last year to go after Willy Adames early on, and I think they got a good trade on that one too. But Rangers get Aroldis Chapman, done deal. Like sharing up the bullpen. I think this shows that this team believes that they're real. They just lost a slugfest today. I don't know if you saw that 12-11 to the Astros, but they're 3-7 in the last 10. But they're still 15 over 500 with the 3-game lead.
Yeah, I think it was a big need they needed to address. So I think why not? Hey, the Royals were willing to trade him at that point already before you're able to raise the price when like a team maybe like the Dodgers or someone jumps into this to try to go get Aroldis Chapman. Smart, because I don't think they gave up a whole lot. I mean, gave up 2 minor league arms, and they weren't really 2 guys that I were, know. So I don't know how much that really plays into it, but I don't think they gave up a whole lot. And for a team that needed bullpen help, I thought it was a great move. I thought it was a dumb move on the Royals. Yeah, you got rid of them a couple weeks too early.
Yeah, a couple weeks too early. And you look at, I mean, it wasn't even like they were trading away like a massive contract. He had a very small contract for who he is, name brand. So that I do think they probably could have waited and gotten more. So, time will tell if that's right or wrong.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we got first half teams. I mean, yes, the All-Star break is coming, but we've played over half the games. The Rays no longer have the best record. Is that right?
Yep. The Braves do.
Yeah, the Braves do it. 56-27. Is that still correct? Or is that? No, that is right. Okay, yeah, because the loss I couldn't say. I was like, they have one fewer win. Okay. So are they still the 2 teams to beat? The Braves and the Rays?
I mean, honestly, I'm surprised what the Braves have done not so much that it's the Braves, but you're doing this without a couple of your star pitchers.
I know. Just imagine when they come back if they're healthy. Good
yeah, and so the rest of baseball's probably shaking in the boots right now, going, well, they're doing this without Fried and they're doing this without Kyle Wright. Not a good thing when it comes to playoff time, because now you can throw out Elder, you can throw out Strider, you can throw out Wright, you can throw out Fried, and you probably have four of the best starter pitchers in that series.
Yeah, I mean, and that right there alone, like that's going to make them so hard to beat come playoff time, especially if they can maybe make one trade or two for a bullpen arm. Yeah. I do think right now in the NL, it's clearly the Braves. Like it's their league to lose. Yeah, the Diamondbacks have been great, and yes, they have two really good starting pitchers and a sparked filled offense, but they have scored fewer runs. They've given up way more runs. Like it's not the same. The one team I think that's sneaky out there right now, the AL, I think is more wide open because Tampa Bay is built for the regular season. I haven't seen Tampa Bay be built for the postseason yet. So that's why I'm leaning a little bit towards the Texas Rangers, who have been linked to Max Scherzer, believe it or not. Did you hear that?
Saw that.
I think that is crazy, that number that they would take on, which would make sense. The Aroldis Chapman was such a cheap deal. But 50 and 35, they're on pace for well over 900 runs. They could eclipse that 1,000 mark if they continue a scorching summer. We'll see. But they're at 500 runs. Over 500 runs in just 3 games through over half the season. So I think that, yes, I'll be at 3-7 the last 10. They are right now my team to beat in the
AL. I mean, I still have my questions about them. And the runs and stuff, absolutely is there. I still feel like we will see Evalde take a big step back at some point.
Right.
And you take DeGrom out of the picture now. But if they are able to facilitate trade and somehow get Max Scherzer, it absolutely would probably make me feel more comfortable with them. But there's a lot. I mean, they have gone through this somewhat of a rough patch over the last few weeks, and it's been against good teams. And that was my big thing early on, was that everyone's like, oh, look at the runs, look at the the record and stuff like that. But so many of those wins were against teams below 500. And that's what, made me kind of stall a little bit on the Rangers. I'm still going to say that I'll stick with my pick. I think the Blue Jays, they've done what they've done, and they haven't played their best ball. And I still think that they had that possibility to play their best ball towards the, middle to end of the season.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's the case, because Colin would appreciate that. I mean, they're 11 games back and 5 games over 500. The Cardinals are 10 games back and 13, maybe soon to be 14 games under 500.
Yeah,
that's nuts. Do you have a thought? This is a completely opposite track, but still playoff related. Did the Twins finish below 500 and win the division?
I wouldn't say no, just because that division is so bad, and I mean, the fact that that team is going to host a playoff, that division will host a playoff series is absolutely insane.
Yeah, they're not good right now. Guardians aren't that good right now. Tigers were good for a little bit, but they've kind of fallen back down to earth, but still only 4 back. As bad as the White Sox have been, they're 5.5 back. I don't understand. 5.5, as bad as they've been. And that brings me to my next question is, when you look at the midway point, we're also starting to look at buyers and sellers, and who are the teams that you believe will actually be the biggest sellers? Because there's only a few teams that are straight. I mean, you look at them like, this team is not good.
I mean, there's probably one. I think that if they did, I think it would shock a lot of people. But then again, at where they're sitting, it may not. And it's not something that they do, and you probably won't like it. But if the Cardinals were to, say, trade Goldschmidt or something at this point, because you're looking at what they have done, and I thought maybe they would turn things around and they would put themselves back in this. I just don't think it's going to happen. So I've seen this floated trade out there, and if I'm the Cardinals, I accept it immediately. And
if it doesn't have an ace, I don't want it.
It's not.
It's a potential
ace. It is a potential ace.
Who is it?
You're actually 2. You're trading him to the Phillies for Painter and Abel, who both have I think Painter has the ability to be an ace at some point, and I think Abel is a third pitcher at most. And if they were to make a trade like that, would I be shocked? Yes, and then again, maybe not, just because where they're at right now. You look at comes next year, they're not a team that spends a whole lot when it comes free agency, and so are they looking at it now that they may have to start trying to rebuild somehow? Because
so
if not, they're going to be in that same spot.
I think if we look at the most likely teams to sell, we already mentioned the Mets right now. Man, the Mets, as bad as the Cardinals have been, the Mets have been just as bad, and they spent a lot more money for this. The White Sox, although only 5 games out of the division, so maybe not if they get on a streak. The Padres, I mean, there's a lot of disgruntled, unhappy, just guys not happy in the locker room. And then the Cardinals. I think those are the main teams that actually have pieces that people might be considered. Like, there are some other teams. Okay, what are the A's going to even sell at this point? What are the Royals going to sell at this point? So, of those teams, I think the Cardinals are one of the least likely because of the Cardinal way. Now, that would be big trades. If they trade away Tyler O'Neill, sure, go for it. Please do. Like, they need to trade away some of the log jam that they have because they don't have aces. If they trade away Jack Flaherty, I could see it. Free agent. Jordan Hicks, the dude's stock is skyrocketing over the next month. I get it. Like, I like Jordan Hicks now that he's figured it out. Just throw the ball down the middle because it has so much movement and it's so fast. But if they trade him for something else, but do not give me depth. The Cardinals have too much depth. If they're going to do it, this is why I asked you. If it's an ace, okay, sure. But if it's not, what are we doing? We're not retooling. We're doing the same thing. The White Sox, they've clearly got to gut that clubhouse because the culture's so bad. The Padres are almost the same thing. I think you got to get rid of one of these guys. They're going to have to consider dumping Juan Soto because they're not going to be able to re-sign him. Why would the guy come back?
The thing with the Padres is that they have too much pride. They have too much pride to sell. They went out and bought all of this, and now they're going, well, we're not sitting in a good spot. We'll turn it around. We're the team that's supposed to take out the Dodgers this year. I don't think that they will sell just because, like I said, and if they do, to me, I think they sell. I would imagine they probably trade Fernando Tatis before they trade Soto, and that's just based off the fact that the amount they gave up for Soto. I don't know if you can trade him and get anywhere close back to what you traded for.
Tatis is already signed. That's the problem I have is that he is.
See, but now if they trade him, because I guarantee I don't see Soto as a guy that's going, oh, I don't want to be here because we suck. You give me my money, I'll stay. And so you trade that contract, Fernando Tatis. Now you freed up all that money. Now you can just throw it to Soto, and Soto will probably take in a heartbeat and run because, one, I don't think he can find a massive contract when it comes to the off. When he is ready to be a free agent, because you're looking at a guy hitting 260 and you think that you're going to get a $300 million contract and be this big, cornerstone for team. You're not showing that the last couple of years. So why would I give you this monster contract? So I think the Padres would be the one team that I could see actually giving him a huge contract, because we've seen it year in, year out, them try to throw these massive contracts at these guys, either just, steal them away or maybe try to, keep them like they did with Fernando Tatis. So honestly, I think that if they do make a trade, Fernando Tatis would probably be the guy, because I think that they feel like they could probably re-sign Soto a lot easier, and maybe even Josh Hader, just because he's a free agent after this year. And I don't think Hader will be a guy that will stick around with that mess that's going on.
Highest bidder, he's a relief pitcher. Yeah. You gotta get that money when you can. I think that's a good point. It's the fact that they have to deal with this. Who knows? Like it's crazy. Have you seen the stat about how many at bats since Tim Anderson's last home run? Dude, I don't remember. It's insane. So we talked about both Cardinals and Dodgers. Like, give me Tim Anderson. Well, the dude's just hitting like Luis Ariz over here. I mean, so he's one of the big names. There's quite a few names with the White Sox that could get traded. But if you look at it, is there a big trade chip that you look at over there? Even if it is Tim Anderson, who, 12 RBIs, a 230 average, and a negative 1.3 WAR right now.
I would say he probably is the biggest name that I could see getting moved. And I think he's also a guy that ego plays a whole lot into it, and then it was like, oh, you stink right now, so I'm not going to give my full effort, maybe. But just say maybe if a team came up and offered a decent amount, maybe you could see a guy like Dylan Cease, who's having somewhat of a down year, or not somewhat. He is having a down year compared to what he did last year, and maybe someone throws a decent amount of prospects at them, and they go, okay, we probably ain't going to compete this year. Let's go ahead and trade him off. I doubt he probably would. I know Giolito is probably the biggest, probably be the guy that gets moved. I think out of all of them, would probably be Giolito. But I feel like Tim Anderson, the track record too much. I don't buy a whole lot into the 230 and 12 RBIs. I think you put him on a team. No, just because you look what he's done in the last few years the injuries. Yeah, injuries are a big part of it. But I mean, when he's healthy, he puts up numbers.
Yeah, I know, but he's also 30. Like, I think at this point, we know who he is. And his career average stat line right now is a 283 with a 430 slugging, 742 OPS, and his home runs is usually around 10 to 15. So if he has 0 so far, last year he had 6 in almost the same amount of game times. I think this is, unfortunately, who he is. I think he's not who he was in his prime in the 18, 19, 20 seasons. I think it sucks. He used to hit for high average. He's not even doing that anymore.
That's why I think the 230 is a little bit deceiving. And that's I think if you put him in a team like the Dodgers, where he's actually got protection with Mookie and Martinez and Freeman and Will Smith, I think his numbers probably go up quite a bit. I mean, he's played a lot of, especially, this year, he's probably played a little bit more with, Luis Roberts and Eloy Jimenez than he's ever had before. Yeah. But I think that there's so much bad chemistry, I guess you call. I don't know, in Chicago there, that it's probably affected a lot of these guys, effort and stuff. They're just like, man, why are we trying if the front office ain't gonna try, or the management isn't trying. So yeah, I think that's part of it, is just that there's the negativity, everything around that organization right now. A team last year that we all expected to run away with that division and possibly be a playoff contender, and have the season they had have last year, and then this year thought, okay, maybe if things go right, they could figure something out. They got rid of Tony La Russa, and now we're exactly back where we were last year. And so I think it's probably taking a toll on him. I think Anderson put him on a continuing team. I think the numbers go up, and he at least gives them something.
Probably could help, but I think we know who he is. We can't expect 25 home runs like he had.
Yeah.
We know who he is. This is why the Royals were such a dummy to go ahead and trade Chapman. The teams that we just named are some of the main teams that are out there that are probably going to have to be sellers. You look at Nationals, they're retooling. I don't know what pieces they really have to sell. The Padres, the Rockies, what are they going to sell? Like, there's so many of these teams. The Cubs are another team that probably is going to end up selling, and they have Stroman and some other things. But it's like at this point, you're going to be trading, hey, I'm a playoff team, you're a playoff team. I'm going to give you some really pitching help because what I need is position player depth. And that's what it's going to be. And that's going to be tough to work out any kind of deal. I think the potential for maybe a couple stars to be traded from these teams that we just mentioned is more likely than us having that. You remember Chris Bryant gets traded, Anthony Rizzo gets traded, and all these players go everywhere. I think that's so. All right, go ahead.
Wait, you named one team in the Rockies. I think they have the guy that would be to me, could be the guy that has the biggest impact if he's trade-wise, and it's Kyle Freeland. And I guarantee you look at the numbers and you go, okay, Freeland's not that good. 4.96 ERA, but you look at his ERA and everything away from Colorado. Last year he had like a 5-something ERA, but away from Colorado he had a 3.26 ERA. So I think a guy like Kyle Freeland, you put him on a team that needs starting pitching depth, or a solid 4 or 5 pitcher. I think that's a guy that could really make an impact on a team down the stretch of the season, because of the numbers away from Colorado are so much better than what they are when he pitches in Colorado.
Yeah, typically this year it hasn't been. He's gotten hit around a little bit on the road, but part of that has to do with who he's playing on the road. But in his career, we talk about track record. Same thing with Tim Anderson. Same thing. He's 30. We know who he is, and on the road, he is much better than he is there. So I got about 2 minutes left. So quick thought: Rob Manfred admits to Astros player immunity. Good Lord. Of course, like he was probably wrong in that. You remember that? Like how?
Yeah.
It just makes me mad. Yuri Gurriel had a 2-run double, and it just makes me mad seeing him.
Yeah,
You know?
why admit it now? There's no use. Okay, if we got short time, this is one thing. The thing I kind of teased at the beginning, and so Stephen A. Smith a couple days ago, they were talking about Shohei Ohtani being the greatest two-way player to ever play, and he's like, "No, it's absolutely Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth is the best, two-way player." And the more I thought about it, I was like, "It's not true." Shohei Ohtani has done something that Babe Ruth never did. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at Babe Ruth's stats throughout his career, the pitching was basically, I think it was like from 1915 to 1918-ish, 1919-ish. So it's only a few years. Throughout that whole time, how many years, or say, what was the most amount of strikeouts he had when he hit 30 home runs? How many strikeouts he had as a pitcher?
In a 162-game season, as a hitter or a pitcher?
No. So as a pitcher, how many strikeouts?
I think he struck out 100 times, like twice in his career in the season. Isn't that right?
Like, well, I'm talking as a pitcher. So so Ohtani, he has had 3 straight years with 30-plus home runs, but has had 502 strikeouts through those 3 years. So as a pitcher, so how many? What's the most strikeouts he had in a season when he hit 30 home runs?
As a pitcher, I couldn't even do that.
So you would expect, there's some years where he had, 100 and some strikeout. The most he had in a year where he hit 30 home runs was 2.
That's insane.
1921. And that was when he wasn't even really considered a pitcher. And so really the only year that he had as a really dual, position, player like Ohtani has done was 1921, or 1920, I think, was when he had like 26 home runs, 100 and some RBIs, and had he was like 9-5. I think had 14, 15 starts. So we're looking at Shohei Ohtani, and they say, Babe Ruth, best two-way. There's no question about it that Shohei Ohtani is doing something that we've never seen in baseball. And at this point, he's the first player since 2013 to have 30 home runs before July. And this is talking about a guy in Aaron Judge who broke the AL record last year with 62. If he keeps on this pace, we're potentially talking about maybe the greatest individual season ever in baseball.
Yeah.
Because he's top 10 in ERA. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. He's number 3 in strikeouts. He's number 1 in home runs as a hitter. He's top 10 in WAR in both hitting and pitching. He's one of the tops in whips, strikeouts, everything. It's just, we're talking about potentially the greatest season in baseball history if he is able to stay on this pace that he's on.
Should be the biggest contract we've ever seen next year. Maybe with the Angels, who knows? Probably the Dodgers. Then maybe he'll win his second MVP, which would double the amount of MVPs that he would have in comparison to Babe Ruth.
Yeah. Second MVP and probably a Cy Young along with it.
So, what a fun fact. What a way to end the podcast. Just Shohei Ohtani is the only man to be Shohei Ohtani. And we are blessed to be able to watch this guy play baseball every single time he goes out there. So, well, we are so grateful that you all listened to us today. Thank you so much for joining us. Till then, we will be back next week. See y'all next time.
See ya.